welcome. My name is Omoita. I'm a professional script writer, and what I do on this channel is to help you write a professional film script. Please, if this is your first time on the channel, I'd like for you to subscribe to the channel, and you might also want to share the link with other people that would find this quite instrumental and useful. Today I'm going to be talking about story development, and first let's attack the terms. What is a story and what is story development? In a very simple way, a story is a series of interconnected events that span over a period of time. On the other hand, what is story development? Story development has to do with the structuring, the framing, the breaking down, and the compartmentalization of a story for scripting. Now, let's talk about the sources of stories. Where the stories emanate from. Where do stories come from? I have decided to categorize this in two. The first category I have decided to call the organic source. The second category I have decided to call the mechanical source. Organic sources of stories. Now, this has to do with when stories emanate from you, when stories were birthed by you, when the stories originated from you. They are not stories that you were told. They are not stories that came from other people. It came from you as inspirations, as ideas. Now, the mechanical sources of stories. Now, these are stories that you stumbled upon. People told it to you. You read, on the magazine, on the newspapers. You saw something somewhere, right? Now, these are stories that did not come from you. Let's talk about the stages of story development. What are the things that are involved in story development? Or how do stories get developed? How do we develop stories when they come to us as ideas, as inspirations, as things we read, and all that and all that? Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the idea. It's also the first stage for me of story development. The first thing is the idea. Now, that's where the story hits you as an idea. Sometimes it comes in full, at other times it comes in patches, which takes me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is the patches. The stage of story development that is called the patching stage. Now, this is the stage where stories hit you in patches. Now, I'd like to also pause here to mention the fact that every single stage of story development is important when we document. Do not leave your stories to chance. Don't think you would remember. Always document or record. It's very important, and it doesn't matter what stage of story development you are on. The next thing I want to talk about is the research. Having had stories come to you as ideas, as inspirations, the next thing you want to do as a professional scriptwriter is to research. Ask questions. Talk with professionals on the field. Depending on the style, depending on the genre of the story, it is very important that you do some form of research. Talk with professionals. Ask questions. Read on the subjects that you're writing. It's very, very important. The next stage of story development is the stage that I have called the summary stage. You need to summarize your story. You need to have an idea of your story from beginning to end. You need to be able to summarize your story, like I would say. You need to summarize your story in such a way that you can give it a word. You need to summarize your story in such a way that you can make a sentence and it's the full story. So the summary stage has to do with you understanding the story from beginning to end in a summary way. And the things that are involved on this level are two things. The first thing is to have a working synopsis. And you also need to have a working log line. Now, what's a synopsis? A synopsis is a brief summary of a story with the high points in view, while a log line, like the synopsis, is also a brief summary of the story. Now, the slight difference between a synopsis and a log line is that while the synopsis focuses on the high points and the spines of the story, the log line generally just summarizes the story in brief, without necessarily paying attention to the high point or the spines of the story. So, the next thing I want to talk about is to compartmentalize your story. That's the next stage of story development I want to talk about. You need to compartmentalize your story. What does this mean? Break down your story. People call it plotting. So this is the point where you plot your story. You want to plot in scenes. You want to plot by acts, you want to plot by sequence, you want to plot by movement, depending on what you want to do. But this is also very important. You breaking down your story, right, in such a way that it has different compartments or different sequences, stages, acts, scenes, whatever you want to do. All right, so this point helps you understand your story by descriptions. You need to have a description to every point of the story, whether it's by scenes, so it helps you have an understanding of the scene by description. You need to be able to describe the scene as it is in brief, so that it helps you script. It's very important. Okay, the next point of story development after the plotting or the breaking down of the story is the writing aspect, the screenplay, the scripting. It is very important. This is where you write, because there is no script without a script writer, and there is no good script without a good script writer. And there is no good script writer who doesn't research. That's why research is one of the stages of story development. Very, very important. So actually write. Now, in writing, you need to consult with appropriate writing softwares. There are a number of them out there. You want to consult Celtex, Trailbee, you want to consult Fading, you want to consult Final Draft. But Final Draft is very beautiful. It's beautiful. So you can consult with any of these writing softwares. So to help you write your script, it is very, very important. The next stage after the writing of your script is to do a proofread. Reread your story. Read it from beginning to end. And as you do that, certain things that were not in your mind before will pop out and you effect them in your script. Or certain things that are not really necessary in the script, you take them out. So proofreading is very, very important. And it's not something you do once, depending on you, right? So you need to proofread. You want to do that 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. It depends on you. But proofreading is an aspect of story development that cannot be rolled out. It's very, very important. Now, these are some of the stages, some of the pivotal stages of story development that as a script writer, they have to come in handy with you. Thank you very much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Today I was talking about story development, and if this is your first time on the channel, I'd like for you to subscribe to the channel and also share the link with other people that might find this quite instrumental and useful. I'd like to see you in my next video. For now, bye bye.